Go for it, Ollie.
Okay, cool. Hey, everyone. My name is Ali Musavi. I am an automotive design consultant at Gravity Sketch. I've been a part of the team for about 10 wonderful months now. And my main responsibility is integrating Gravity Sketch into current workflows to unlock value and new possibilities surrounding the creative process at automotive OEMs. Prior to joining Gravity Sketch, I was an exterior designer at Stellantis for about 6 years. And during my time there, I was introduced to Gravity Sketch by Shay. It completely revolutionized my design process, and I fell in love with it so much that I had to join the team. So I'll pass it to Shay.
Yeah, it's great to have you, Ali. I feel like whenever you say like 10 months, it feels like 2 years. So it's felt like a much longer, and you've been an instrumental part of the team so far. We've learned a ton from you. A little bit about my background. So I'm Shay Sasanya, co-founder and CEO here at Gravity Sketch. My background is in industrial design and design for manufacturing. I spent about 2.5 years at Jaguar Land Rover interior design team, and I learned a lot there as well. But the big impetus to start Gravity Sketch was really on the back of all the breakdowns in communications Daniela, my co-founder, and I saw in the process of bringing a product from a sketch to reality. So the sketching process is wonderful, and a lot of the prototyping process is also amazing, but the journey to get there and all those gaps in communication, it really is challenging. And what happens is your design sort of depreciates from the initial intent, or at least the feedback that's given isn't as, I guess, as like directed towards the areas that need the feedback. It's just really due to the tools that you're able to facilitate the communication through. And so once we start to see this accessible VR and augmented reality platforms come online, we just felt it was a great opportunity to build a solution. And we've been doing it ever since. So the company actually started in 2014, didn't officially start working on this product until about 2017, and we launched in 2018. So it's been about 5-year journey to get to where we are now, and I'm so happy to see that the evolution of the product now that we're at 6.0. Some critical milestones for us in the journey have been mobile VR. I mean, that changed the game for us. Landing pad and moving everything into a collaborative and cloud-based solution completely changed the game for us as well. And of course, on our customer side, seeing our first vehicle that was made in Gravity Sketch all the way through to Alias and other tools, and now on the road, and our first footwear products reaching Foot Locker and JD Sports and the likes. Like, those are just monumentous moments. But ultimately, we haven't been doing this as a team alone. This has been a shared effort from 3 people with just a great idea and some aspiration and talking in Instagram, to now we're about 90 people. But the whole time, our community has been behind us. And the whole time we've been communicating with you all. It's very rare that you'll find a company that has the designer at the top of the organization. And as that person who's been in the shoes of many of you, I know what it's like to struggle and to not kind of have progression of your work and of your feedback into these software platforms that are currently being provided to you. So we're trying to make a tool for designers, by designers, with designers. Long intro, Ollie, but I just wanted to make sure I get it all out in the beginning.
No, I love it. I love it. Yeah, you spoke a little bit about milestones, and there's been quite a few. Today's one of the most monumental. It's one of the most significant in recent years. We've had a lot of smaller releases, but since this is the most significant release, I want to ask you, Shay, why did we decide to do this?
Yeah, so we've have so many little beta features and so many little things floating around the studio. Like, the teams are working on lots of different things, and we ever so often slip stuff in that doesn't disrupt too much the workflow. And there are some things where we see like sticky points in our customers' workflow and our users' workflow. But to make these really drastic changes, it would require us to like redo all our training materials. Also, we need to prep our customers and prep you, the community, with new content and also how to access these certain features. And it kind of got to the point where it was a bit overwhelming. And we saw that the friction that we were looking to address, areas around accessing your tools. Like right now, you have to go in and kind of toggle on all these toggles to get different strokes, or you have to tweak the surface tool multiple times to be able to access all the different dimensions of the surface tool. We realized that people were spending far too much time doing that, and it was actually breaking the creative flow. So many of us out here who are designers, creatives, we know that there's a flow state that we enter in when we're creating. And that's where we're just kind of in the zone. And it's really hard to it's hard to articulate what that is and when that moment comes, but we've watched so many people use the product. We have these like really amazing observation sessions where we bring people into the studio or we watch over a live stream, and we've been able to like really point out some of the key areas where people are pausing, and they may not even notice it themselves, but they're like looking down at the menu or pausing for a little bit, and like they're so fast with the interface because they've learned it so much. But we wanted to remove some of these like extra clicks and toggles and all this stuff that goes on. And so I think it's like the right time based on the amount of information that we've been able to gather from the community and from our customers.
Yeah, and we're continuing to listen to the community, especially our customers, where there's a lot of there's a lot of feedback that we're getting that's similar throughout the community and the customers. And we have a huge list of feedback, but we couldn't address every single community request. But I do want to rest assured that those will be addressed at some point. I love the bit that you just spoke about, Shay, the flow state. It's a magical place. And with the new 6.0, it's definitely going to improve the user's workflow. So how is it going to improve the user's workflow, Shay?
Yeah, so we touched on a couple of things here. There's about 4 key areas that we brought forward in the application. And to your point about feedback, we get various feedback. So we get feedback from the community, you all that's on the call right now, which is amazing. We get feedback from our customers, and it's a bit of a Venn diagram. So community members are also customers more often than not. And then we also have like sales prospects. These are people that want to buy our product potentially because they saw it somewhere, and they have like these expectations. So what we try to do is we focus on the kind of the crossover between community and customers first, and that's where a lot of these features came from. And we try to like meet some expectations, but we're not really chasing expectations. We want to chase the people that have actually experienced flow state and gravity sketch, and then make it much more fluid for their workflow. So the 4 things that we decided to address were the ease of access to tools by giving you 6 preset tools for every geometry type in Gravity Sketch. And we're deeming that right now the brush library. Again, Sketch is our big theme here at Gravity Sketch. We're trying to redefine the sketch a bit more and bring this kind of digital crafting and digital sketching to the 3D space. So you'll see brush library today, which is pretty cool. You have 6 pre-customizable toggles for stroke, surface, primitives, and text. So believe it or not, you can bring fonts into Gravity Sketch. We just haven't exposed that to you all yet, but that's coming very, very soon. You'll see a little bit of that today. We also have something called the Toolbox. Now, we've been working on Tool Belt for a very long time, maybe almost 3 years now, and that was never made to roll out. I mean, we literally spent about 3 months just prototyping Tool Belt and saying, what's the area that we can just give someone quick access to tools that they can pull out and like use at their will. And so what we decided to do was bring all that together into a sub-D editing tool menu, similar kind of experience. So if you're familiar with the sub-D editing tool, you'll be very familiar with how to access the new toolbox. And then finally, we decided that we wanted to put the toolbox in that same UX paradigm as the sub-D editing tool. So we had to find a place for color. We felt that color could exist within a permanent space on your left controller, similar to how like an artist has his or her palette that they can pull colors from. So that now is accessible on your left hand. And then the final thing is people are doing so many design reviews in Gravity Sketch, especially with the launch of our screen app. So we wanted to bring some presentation tools to the virtual environment. Some of those were in the tool belt before, but what a new one that you're going to get is Laser Pointer as well. And we're going to go through those today.
Yeah, awesome. Shall we jump into VR, Shay?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm going to share screen here. All right, so we're actually utilizing the screen collab application that we have. And so I have this set in like presentation mode, but if I hit tab here, we can see the tools. And we're just following Ali right now. So this is real-time collaboration. Our mics are muted here. And I have it pinned to Ali's VR view. He is the king of the room, so he controls the environments and so forth. And then if I hit tab, that all goes away, and we're able just to watch Ali walk us through some of the features. So tell us kind of what you got going on here.
So yeah, I decided to do a little bit of a forward swept wing spaceship here. Got a little warm up sketch going. But yeah, to Shay's immediate point, the brush library, this is, I want to say, one of my favorite aspects of it. Aside from the beautiful UI update that we didn't mention yet, everything looks really nice. It's like a brand new car in here. But yeah, essentially, you have draw, surface, shapes, and text. And within draw, you can still access the menu like you normally could. There will be some new things here. These sliders have been updated. You have your stroke tool. And the beautiful thing about the brush presets is you can come in here and select point mode or select just mix input mode. And you'll see that the icon actually changes based on what you're inputting. So if I zoom in there a little bit, you can see that the points are showing up. And that's going to carry across all of your sketches. You can also name them. So I can come in here and name this like point mode or point something, and it'll stay there, which is cool. Not to confuse it with the actual point mode. But yeah, like for sketching, it's great. You also have a dedicated ribbon stroke tool. We noticed that you had to in the original version go through so many options to get into the ribbon stroke. Now we have a dedicated tool for that, which is great. So I
Ollie,
can
can we touch on that ribbon stroke tool really quickly as well?
yeah,
Now
absolutely.
with the two sliders on the sides, you can change the orientation of the ribbon as well. So you can have it a vertical orientation, which you're used to, or you can have a horizontal orientation at the bottom slider there, and those will behave slightly different.
Hmm. Yeah, and you see that if I turn off sub D, it also changes the icon as well.
Yeah, and you have
Yeah,
low poly mode on. Yeah, there's like tons of stuff now at your fingertips. The big vision for this is it will all fuse into one interface where you can easily seamlessly go between all geometry types.
yep. And then you have a dedicated volume tool here as well. This should look pretty familiar. And then moving on to surface, one of the first things you'll notice is that we've kind of separated the surfaces into different categories here. So you would have quilt, which is essentially similar to the version that we had previously, but now you can go into precise quilt, you can go into sheet, there's low poly, and then round now has different shapes as well. And I think this is really cool because instead of just having here, let me change my color actually.
So yeah, that's the new color selection there on Ollie's non-drawing hand.
So yeah, now instead of it just being a circular shape, you can create different geometry here, which is really nice. But yeah, now just with the you also have the square, which is similar to that. But yeah, for the color itself, all you have to do is hover, and you're able to to what you'd had before, where you can kind of drag and push in to change the hue of it. You have your shaders here, you have your transparency slider, and then you also have your history here, which is really nice. So all you have to do is kind of just flick your wrist or just hover over it, and you'll be able to access it that way. It's really nice because you can change the color before you start sketching. But you can still go into let me get out of this tool real quick. You can still go into your sketch lines and change it like you would normally. So you can still hold down where the original color wheel button was. So that hasn't changed. Um, but yeah, let's go into the toolbox a bit. So if you look on your right hand, this should be familiar. We got rid of the tool belt, but it's a similar layout where you have all of the tools kind of in one row here. So the first tool being measure, I can come over here and measure the wingspan here if I wanted to. And measure the length of this thing, which is really nice. And then you have the selection tool. This one's really great. So I can come in here and select multiple objects and press the purple button on my offhand, which would give me the gumball. And now I can move vertically, horizontally. I can rotate. If I hold down the left trigger, I can incrementally do that in increments of 5 millimeters. And then I can put that down. And then I can also switch to if like things are grouped. Give me 1 second here. Deselect. If I group all of these objects here, and then I switch to the white I can still individually select, but if I switch to the black just by flicking the left or right controller, I can select the whole object. So you can be a little bit more precise, and you don't necessarily have to ungroup things when you are in selection mode. Next is color and materials. Oh, and you'll also notice here, you might not be seeing it on the screen here, but we do have guided walkthroughs. So right now it's telling me toggle between brush and pipette. But essentially, if I press the color wheel button on my left hand now, I can go into more of I can customize the actual shaders here. So I can go into red. There's also a pie chart here where you can select colors that are a little bit more precise. You can go into clay. You have your history here. We also have the airbrush shader now. So instead of just always having to upload a PNG of a low opacity feathered airbrush, now you can use the airbrush preset. Paint, there's outline, reflective, and clay. And then once you edit these and select one, for instance, let's say I do a red clay, I can now go into the mode here and it'll have the red clay preset down here, which is great. And then next is viewpoints. Viewpoints has been upgraded as well. So now when I set a viewpoint, the window is a lot more crisp. And then when I toggle to the viewpoint itself, it actually takes my camera of my headset directly to that object. Instead of being in front of the image itself, now I am just looking directly at the object that I'm looking to present or draw attention to. So I can switch between these, which is really nice. And then you'll notice on the tool belt, we also have teleport mode. If you remember the banana, we now just have it dedicated to teleport where you can jump around and do things that way. And then the laser pointer. The laser pointer is great. So now when you're collabing with people, you can point at specific objects with the laser pointer and call things out. That's also going to be very useful in screen collab so that you can draw the attention to, I see Shade also laser pointing. We're going to have a laser pointer battle here. But yeah, that's the high level overview of the toolbox. And now if we get into some of the preferences here, you can also reset your brushes. So let's say you messed up some of the brushes or you named it something that you didn't want to. You don't have to go individually and do that. You can just click reset brushes and it will do that. You can also change your display frequency, which is really nice. So you can do frequency 90 hertz. There's video tips that you can enable to kind of guide you through some of these newer features, tool tips. So yeah, that's kind of the overview. I'm going to start sketching here in a second, and you can kind of see the workflow. One of the important things from my workflow that was introduced is now on a stroke line or a sketch line, you can slide vertices. So this is really powerful. Oops, it's sliding too quick. Is this on Snap right now? Give me 1 second here.
Ali, do you mind if we take some questions while we're...
Absolutely, let's do that.
All right, cool. So while Ali's just kind of working his way through the design, we're going to take some questions. I might hop into VR with him so you guys can see there's some UI that wasn't coming across in Screen Collab, so I can show you guys in VR myself. But love to just start diving into the questions. Let's go at the very top. I know there's lots of questions about which headset to buy. And capacity is one of the ones I saw early. And what we're suggesting everyone to do is just get your entry point in, right? If you really buy what you can afford at the moment or what you can digest, if that makes sense. Because we're going to support all headsets with 6 degrees of freedom. And we support even the Quest 1 until Meta stops supporting Quest 1. We will support Quest 1. We support Quest 2. We will support the newly announced Quest 3 as well. And of course, with the big announcement from Apple, we'll be working on some sort of hand tracking type of interface with Gravity Sketch as well. So we'll be able to add some support there as well. But ultimately, if you're interested in this space and you haven't got in yet, I would definitely just get your hands on something that works for your budget. And if you want to lean in and go all in, definitely the Quest Pro is amazing. And when August comes around, the Quest 3 is probably going to be the suggested one that we say for now, in terms of in terms of just dedicating it to your design workflow. Controller wise, it's really comfortable and looks like it's going to be amazing from a fit perspective as well, with a reduction in weight. So that's the headset component. When it talk about capacity, increasing capacity, that's something we're working on all the time. So you should see a bit of a difference with how many polygons we can push in this update. Every single update we work on optimization. There's a massive refactor that's going on right now with all mirrored objects that's going to actually give us a pretty big bump in performance across every device. At the moment, we weren't able to get it out in the 6.0, unfortunately, but we will be fast following with another update much earlier than this. It won't be a major number update. It will be like a 6.1 type of situation, but that will have some more performance related stuff that we'll talk about. Probably won't do a big webinar for that, but we'll definitely notify everyone. Sorry, I just have to like roll up and read some of these questions. Some of the stuff I'll answer when I put the headset on. So I'll turn off screen sharing and I'll get into the headset and you guys can see my POV and we can do some of that stuff. So yeah, edge selection and edge sliding is all done with the left trigger. So I'm going to show you guys my super old controllers. I tend to use like the Oculus quite a bit on the tethered Oculus. But what we have here is the idea that we're going to use the non-drawing hand trigger as a shift button. So if the blue button is kind of like your escape button all the time, whenever you're like in a sketch mode or edit mode, you hit escape. The non-drawing trigger will be your shift button so that you can have more accuracy in how you pick and place and maneuver and move things. And you'll also see that with reference images. So reference images always would float around and you can never get them straight vertical. Hold the shift button down now in the new application and you'll able to vertically lock it to your environment. So that will kind of apply everywhere in the application. So we brought that to all of the NURBS based geometry as well as the sub-D based geometry, which some of it already had from a minor update in the past. Any questions I'm missing here? Tyler, do you see anything in the chat?
Yeah, and Shay, I'm happy to take them over if you want to hop in VR and y'all can answer while y'all are sketching around too.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. So, cool deal. So Shay will share his screen here in a second so we can see it.
Ali can answer for me while I'm setting up.
Yeah, Ollie, here you go. So this user uses the Meta PC version of Gravity Sketch. So with a Quest 2 over Airlink, is it possible to use pass-through mode on the PC version, or is it limited to the standalone version?
It's limited to standalone. That's all Meta, not us, unfortunately.
All right, there you
Sorry
go.
about that. We would love to give it to you.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's for sure. So another one here. So Ollie, this one's for you. This user sees that you're doing glass from the same mesh. Can you add shades to each panel or do you break it out later?
I break it out later. Yeah, definitely. I like to get the overall feeling of the proportion first, just to make sure that the silhouette is nice, that all of the surfaces and topology is flowing correctly. And then once I have that, then I go in and separate the topology to make the glass.
Nice. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, here we go. Here's another good one. Oh, as they keep coming in, I keep losing them. So can we use the shift functionality to place the text perfectly straight? Ollie, you want to take that one?
Let's try it.
All right, we're going to try real time here then. Now we've got Shay and Ollie in VR here, so.
Got it. What were we trying?
So it like as soon as I click the right trigger to write text, it's already straight. So you're asking if it's like this, if I can get that.
Text cursor. I could talk to that. We really want to put that in place. We actually had a sprint on it, but we just didn't get it in time for 6.0. So I look for a minor update to get that.
Nice.
Ollie, I'm gonna copy all this, Ollie, and make my own.
Yeah. You had one back there.
Oh, okay.
You can have 3.
That's all right. I'll have to.
No worries.
Love watching y'all sketch in real time, though. Super cool to see. So, are there any plans to add support for layer groups?
You know what? Think Christmas gift, guys. Think Christmas gift. We want to give you guys something really special for Christmas, and that is the key thing I've been pushing for internally. So
Well,
Yes,
there we
there's
go.
a plan.
Everybody
Chris-
loves a good Christmas gift. So.
Yeah, we'll try to do something really magical for the end of the year, so you guys have something to do over the holiday.
So here we go. About 3D model imported to Gravity Sketch. Will it be possible to edit those?
Yeah, so I can do that actually now and just bring a little bit of attention to our resource library. So if I go into my import, then I have reference. In the reference, this will load up. We're constantly updating this, but we've recently updated this quite a bit, which is kind of cool. So you can go into, let's say, accessories. And here in accessories, I have a couple of things here. Like, for example, I have these gems. I can just grab these and bring them in. And then I can scale them up and ungroup. And then each individual one I can go straight into and start editing. Now, if this was something that you brought in just cold as a OBJ file, so let's just remove these. Let me see if I have an OBJ file that is okay for us to use from a copyright perspective. I probably have maybe something in here. I have some random OBJs. Let's see if I have like something in sports. So the soccer ball here. Here we go. So I'll bring this soccer ball in, and this was just a random OBJ. And as long as it's not too high polygon, it will load up and it'll tell you when it's finished loading. So you can bring that in through landing pad. This is just on my landing pad. I'll grab it, bring it in, go into edit mode, and then as long as it doesn't have too many polygons, I can convert this to a sub-D object that's editable in Gravity Sketch. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Up, too many faces. So let's go back and see if we can find something else. So I will go back here. Oop, that's too big. It won't load that one. But here we go. Basketball. Basketball loads pretty fine. We are working with some athletic companies, so we have a lot of these type of things to set up scenes. But now that this is imported in, and this is the FBX, so it brought the textures over with it, I can go into edit. I can convert this now, and now it's converted, and I can manipulate and move, but I can also smooth as I would normally smooth any sub-D object in Gravity Sketch. And there's obviously some breaks here because the mesh is not connected. So I can go through and I can do that as well, and I can connect these two mesh items together. And maybe if I just break it up, you guys can see it how it performs in real time. Let me just rotate it over so it has a better view.
Nice. Really cool to see you do this in real time, Shay. I think it's very helpful for all of our users online. So
yeah, the import flow is something that we just need to do better at as a company. Like I'm not oblivious to that. We're gonna improve our import flow. But for the time being, 10,000 polygons is what we're gonna allow you to convert into editable stuff. We have to protect the lowest grade headset, but we will improve that in the future as the performance of these devices gets better as well.
nice. Yep. I think that makes perfect sense to make sure that we're, keeping it so that everybody can use it with that. So, but good to hear that we've got updates coming. So we've got another one. Do we have updates in multiple symmetry axes?
Multiple symmetry axis is another one that's like, you guys are relentless with it. We need to do it. We have it as a project that we've done internally to test out the validity. And now we have to figure out what the UX is for it. But it will be one of those things that comes in another update.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that you hinted on is that we've done like an internal project around that. And Shay, it's really, as we're talking about just all these updates we've done and the testing and all these cool things that we're bringing to you all with 6.0, I think one thing that could be really cool to talk about would just be a little bit around our innovation days and just how we're always kind of pushing the bounds there. You want to share a little bit more on that, Shay?
Sure, yeah. So the first Monday of every month, we have an innovation day where the whole product team, engineers, designers, user researchers, can work on whatever they wish. And usually it's something that we generate from a customer request or from a community request. And we've seen things like fabric simulation. Now it's almost impossible for all this stuff to come to the application, but it's great to do a sense check for our own purposes. Like, will this actually work? Could we actually launch this stuff at runtime? We've also seen things like multiple mirrors, multi-layer and sub-layers, for example. There's a ton of things that have come out of those innovation days. You could thank Innovation Day for the HDR import. HDR import came purely from a 8-hour innovation day hack, and now it's a fundamental part of our application. Volume tool was an innovation day hack. It was a 2-hour job to get volume tool in, and we spent about a week optimizing it for deployment. So this stuff sometimes does make it. Sometimes it's giving us a really good test to see if like it makes sense for us to go down that path or not. And we'll continue to do that as long as possible, really. But ultimately, the more insights we get to your workflow, it's not really about the loudest you yell, but more about the why this is important to you and how this will change your workflow. That really brings a lot of alignment to the product team to prioritize some of these things that you're asking for, and letting us do a bit of a deep dive in one of our innovation days to see if it's actually possible for the platform.
I
Yeah,
personally am excited on innovation days because I get to use, or I get to see the sneak preview as a Gravity Sketch user.
Yeah, no, and I think
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, I just think it's really cool. You were talking about how, the insights into the workflows. It's not about being the loudest person. It's about the innovations into the workflows, right? And that really just speaks to how we're a tool built by designers for designers, right? And we're valuing everything our community says. And we're, even if we're willing to try it and trying to figure out how to make it work for you all, because ultimately, we're nothing without our community in Gravity Sketch. So I just think it's really cool to highlight that and the way you talk about it, Shay. So.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things is like there's so much stuff we want to do. It's just like when people tell us, "Hey, we need booleans," like show me an example of what you're trying to achieve, so we can understand your workflow intrinsically. So we're not just like building something in the dark without a full context. The more context we have, the better we can do.
For sure. All right, so here's another good question. So when sharing a workspace, can you turn off or change the opacity on layers individually so that you don't interrupt the other users, but also make it less distracting?
No, at the moment, it's a fully collaborative environment. So when you turn a layer off, it affects everyone. So yeah, Ali's affecting the layer that I've just worked on. In the past, we didn't allow others to affect their layers, but we found that like more often than not, people are using this as a true collaborative environment. And so in the spirit of collaboration, we want to make sure that everyone's seeing the same thing so they can make decisions together. But roles and permissions is another area that we've been exploring, maybe not from an innovation day perspective, but from a real company strategy perspective. We're seeing that a lot of our customers are bringing in their design leaders and even non-design stakeholders like marketing and merchandising teams. And so they don't want them to screw up the environment. And that's why we're presenting presentation tools, but also permissions. So what you can and can't have access to. And especially with Screen Collab, this becomes a bit of a challenge because we want to give people access to have an engaging experience behind the screen if they don't have a VR headset. But at the same time, we want to be very mindful that like there's a presentation that's curated and you may not be part of the creative team. You might be a contributor to the creative team from a non-creative discipline. And so you're going to have some restrictions on what you can and can't access.
Yeah, that's a huge update for our enterprise clients for sure. So love to hear that. So this is a good one. It's getting some +1s on it. And I'm not sure if we have anything prepared for this, but we'll see. So do we have any reference photos that we could bring into this sketch just to see how that's changed, if it's changed at all?
Oh yeah, we did talk about reference. So you have to forgive me. I'm using my personal account and I have some weird reference photos, I imagine. Let's see what we got in here.
Yeah, that's why I was
actually,
I'm not sure if we were prepared for this, but we'll see what you got.
They're not that weird. I mean, this is a designer I really like. And so there's some kind of like she does these really really unique forms and stuff. So images come in just like you would grab and drop them in. Now the cool thing here now is that we talked about the shift trigger and we have a little pop-up now telling you what to do with it. If I hold this down, it locks and it locks at 45 degrees. So I will always be able to have it locked in position. Before you can grab it and just drag it to the mirror and it will lock to the mirror. But now you hold the trigger down, it will lock and stay locked in any position as long as you rotate your hand when you're grabbing.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I can do, a very precise 90-degree alignment between these two images, for example. Or I can copy this one with my trigger held down and it stays perpendicular. It's a little bit sensitive, so you really got to make sure your hand is held in the orientation that you want it. But that's something we could tweak with you guys. Like, again, nothing in Gravity Sketch is really like a finished, polished product. So work with us, continue to work with us. Like, we're not shy about feedback. It's not going to take us years to implement, you know, a functionality or improvement to something that's clearly wrong. And for those of you that have been with us long enough, you guys know this.
Yeah, for
Actually,
sure.
let me bring in something more appropriate for what Ollie is building. I actually have some really cool helmet design somewhere.
Perfect.
I'll see if I can find it, Ollie.
While you're looking for that, here we've got another cool question that I think would be very interesting. So we would love to hear more about the new surfacing options, like the difference between regular quilt and precision quilt. What can we talk about?
Sure. So this one can be found in the surfacing tool. And actually, we removed the grab bars, but you could still grab the menu anywhere by just hovering over the border. So I'll just grab the menu and dock it here. I'll move away from the mirror plane so we just have a clean space. I'll just delete my layers panel. So these are just the presets. So you can always change these and just click them again to change them. But I'm just going to walk you through without going into the actual tool itself and starting to edit. I'll just walk you through each one. And let's make sure we pick a color that we like here. So I will go with our standard paint for this. And then if you just tap the black button once, it just takes you back to the creation space. And so with the quilt, it doesn't feel too much different from the ribbon stroke, but this is sub D by default, meaning that you can go into edit mode and you can start editing it just like a sub D object. Now, if you remember before, it was about a sheet. And so the way that we thought about this, and I'll kind of make two quick examples here, and I'll change the color of this one just so we have a little bit of a difference. So mathematically, this is a subdivision object, and this is a NURBS object. And what we do is we do a conversion, but now you don't have to do that conversion. You can have it preset for that. And then when you want to have a NURBS object, you can do it that way. And so if you're not familiar with these two, the way these two mathematics work, the reason we call this a sheet is if you were to extend a sheet, like a piece of fabric, your sheet on your bed, you would have to extend it by both this direction. So I can come in and I can grab an edge here, and I'd have to like extend it by a whole row in one direction or a whole row in another direction. Now, that is exactly how you would weave a sheet, for example. But a quilt, you can always add a patch. So you can always add a square patch to a quilt in any direction. And so we decided to call this quilt. So that's the difference. It's just NURBS and sub D, but we want to make these a little bit more accessible and easy to understand with the analogy of a real world object. And now when we talk about precise quilt, all we've done is we just applied point mode to it. So now you can be just a little bit more descriptive with where you add those points so you can understand how many points you have the whole way through.
So Shay, just to quote AJ from the audience here, this is a lifesaver. My pain is gone, smiley face. Those are the comments that give me warm fuzzies, y'all. We'd love to hear that.
Awesome. Yeah, AJ, I mean, honestly, to be honest, like the thing is we have to prioritize certain things that are going to like speed up the flow state and like how you're working more so than like adding a brand new like Boolean tool or something like that. So we are working on those long tail projects, but this particular update is more of like a love letter to you all. Like, let's make it the current tool set that we have, let's just make it work really, really smooth. And so we haven't added the support for changing your preset text yet, but fonts, we just couldn't get across the line. Fonts will come. You can bring your fonts to the platform and you could change your preset fonts to anything you want. But this is cool, so you could just grab everything that we already had. A lot of people don't know that we had these fonts. So if I like just type in, let's just type in AJ because he gave us a comment. A lot of people don't know that this font button here can toggle you through a bunch of preset fonts that we provide already. These are just royalty-free fonts. You obviously may have purchased fonts that you want, and you can bring those to your landing pad and work with those as well. That's something we will be offering support to in a minor update, not a major update.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Just seeing people change up those fonts. So for those of you who don't know, we're actually streaming this live on our YouTube channel right now as well, which is really cool to see. And we're getting some questions that are actually coming in from YouTube here. So I'm going to take a few of those as well for those viewers. But so will we be adding in the future option to navigate in the worlds and making it more of a presentation app? This is actually an interesting one. I think what they're referring to is probably what you can already do within our collab app with viewpoints, right?
That's right. So
Yeah.
viewpoints allow you to move around quite fluidly. Let me just delete this menu. We'll go into viewpoints. Ollie's already dropped some viewpoints for me. I'll drop one out here, and I can grab his viewpoints and move these around. And so when you're in viewpoint mode, you can just use your joystick to toggle between the viewpoints that are set up for you. Just left and right on the joystick, and you go through, and you see the little icon there. Now, what's also interesting here is that by offering the toolbox, in the future, right now, I can't talk about what we're doing right now, but in the future, a reviewer or someone you're presenting to that you don't want to create will only have these three options, for example. And so they can teleport over really quickly by using the teleport tool. They can laser point at things by using the laser pointer, and they'll be able to obviously toggle through the viewpoints. So you can simulate this right now by just instructing anyone that you want to bring into your environment that is not savvy in Gravity Sketch. Just give them the right controller only and tell them hit the black button and use the tools on the far right side, the three tools on the far right side. And you can just, they have a little text pop up above them, so it should be pretty straightforward. So
yeah, not many
steps.
users know this as well. You can actually grab a viewpoint and you can put it into edit mode, and you can mess with the field of view of that camera, and you can also take a screenshot directly from that. So
yeah,
if you didn't know that, now you do.
Yeah.
you can screenshot. You can also name it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can also make it a spawn point when you get into the room. A lot of people don't utilize that as much as they should.
Spawn point. Sorry, if you hit the little violet button here, you could turn this viewpoint into a spawn point. So whenever you join the room, that will be where the user starts.
Nice. Yeah. I think viewpoints are just such a game changer that if you're not using them, like even as a non-designer user, like I've had a ton of value out of them. Something worth checking out. So,
yeah, I'll also mention, sorry, just one last thing on viewpoints that I don't know a lot of people know. These export in the FBX, so you can bring these straight into Blender, Keyshot, any other tool that consumes camera points. These export along with the FBX file format.
Nice. Very helpful. Thank you all both for going so in depth into those. So what about layer groups, like similar to in Photoshop? Do we have anything like that?
No layer groups at the moment. Again, it's a big one. You guys have been requesting this for ages. Layer panel got a little bit of a facelift, but we will be investigating this for Christmas time. Hopefully getting you guys something that you guys can play with over the holidays.
Nice. Man, Christmas is going to be great this year. So
we put the watch on this side, by the way. So it's just like you're checking your wristwatch. Watch has some settings here where you can get notifications every 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or every hour. And then you could change it from, I have mine set to the military time, but you can also change it to the AM PM setup.
Nice.
I really appreciated the cleverness of that.
The little wristwatch situation.
Wristwatch situation.
We did it before, like almost like a timepiece that you would have in your pocket, so you like hold it in your palm. But it kind of cluttered with all the menu that we have going on here now as well.
Yeah, so do we have any thinking about shapes like springs or something that has continuous parts? Some button mode to repeat this part inside edit mode?
Yeah, so we don't quite have that at the moment. We have done some really fun little experimentations with stuff like that. But yeah, nothing yet, unfortunately. What you can do is if you go into Smart Move, let's say we wanted to create like I'm just going to try to create like a little linkage or something here. What you could do is you can make this a Smart Move and you just do something like that, for example, and you take both of these. And I have Ghost Move turned on. I'll show you how to do that if you guys don't know. And then if I pull the trigger and then you see the black dots populate, I can then just make a bunch of copies. So this is the best you get for now. And then when you're released, the original goes back to its place. And now I have, my little chain, and I can go and group that. And now it's a group. And then if I go into group edit mode, I can then kind of manipulate it a little bit. Oh, I did it on the mirror, so it's a little bit
Yeah, it's a
strange,
little
but
weird.
yeah,
But in
yeah.
terms of workflow, if you spent time on one link and you made one link look really good, then you can make a really nice chain link. So yeah, spending time on one piece and then grouping them together.
Yeah, but I totally understand the question, and the question is, about that kind of array type of experience. And we have a really fantastic array when it comes to polar symmetry. If those of you who don't know, you just turn on your polar symmetry here, and so you have this kind of radial array. But could you array along a path, for example, or could you have polar symmetry with mirror as well? So there's a lot of different things we want to bring to that, these kind of like functions that you can do within the application, without 7 different stages between. But these are like a little bit longer term. So for this one, this update, particular 6.0, is more of a usability update, and there will be a significant geometry/creation update in the distant future.
Nice. Alrighty, here we go. So another question here. So this one's about the color palette, and are we able to separate that from the controller hand and place it next to you?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked, because I would have forgot to tell you guys about this. So right now, this is always permanently on your hand, right? However, if I go into my paint bucket here, and this is an area that we want to expand like crazy, so please give us feedback on this. But if I go into the paint bucket and I hit the button here, I now have these presets very similar to the brush library. I can grab that and dock that. And now if I go over to Stroke Tool, I now have that with me. It's here. Just like any other panel in Gravity Sketch, you could just pull out your panels as you need them. So let's say I want to bring my settings panel. I'm going to bring that out. I'm going to bring my layers panel out as well. And so now I have my workspace here. And I'll probably even just bring this out just for the sake of having my tools out here as well. And if I click this again, this makes it a little bit easier to manage. So now I can just always turn over to my right side and I have everything ready to go. And what's cool is that if I double click on this, I now have the ability to change colors and everything in real time as I'm sketching. So as I'm creating, I probably want to turn off my symmetry, but as I'm creating, for example, I can quickly come over, change black, so forth, maybe change this preset altogether. Maybe I'm going to change the name, call this number 2. And it's just ready to go. It's just another panel in space. So one of the beautiful things here is that we've always tried to clean up the UI, so you don't have all this UI in your face like most screen-based software. But if you want to create like a little workshop environment, you can set up your panels however you wish. Like some people have their panels right down by their waist if they're standing up. Others will have them, in an area that they could just swivel their chair over, change the color, change a layer, swivel back to the design, continue working. So yeah,
It's all
you can just
preference.
pull it off your hand.
It's all preference. There's a lot of users that, as Shay mentioned, you can kind of customize it. But a lot of users don't like flipping through things, and they like to have their UI present at all times. Other users like to have it hidden. So we have that flexibility.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Having the UI present, I'm definitely turning that on. That's really awesome to see. So we're coming up here in about 9 minutes. We've had a ton of amazing questions and a ton of engagement here. Just really, really appreciate it from everybody. If there is a question that we didn't get to or that we don't get to, you can email us at hello@gravitysketch.com, and we will absolutely get you an answer and find the person to help you out with that if we don't know the answer. So just, throwing that plug out there. With 10 minutes left, while we're still watching Shay and Ollie do a little bit of sketching, Jay, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of what the future of Gravity Sketch is and, what we're thinking? I know there's a lot of huge improvements here. You've talked about a lot of improvements coming for Christmas. We're seeing some new players in the headset space. Would just love to hear kind of your thoughts about the future of Gravity Sketch.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm just like mashing up Ollie's designs. Sorry.
Match it up.
All right, I'm gonna turn my camera on. I'm gonna stop sharing, guys. I'll come over and we'll just talk about the little wrap up. Unless there's any last minute requests, going once, going twice. All right, cool.
Yep.
We're gonna stop it there. Yeah, let me turn my camera on and we'll just have a little jam around it. What can I say? We've been on this journey for a very long time. 5 years as like a formal company with investment and a team. 8 years if you include the work that the co-founders and myself put in, just understanding the landscape and building beta prototypes and stuff like that. And we've been through these really crazy cycles, right? Of like no one interested in whatsoever in this technology to everyone being like, this is the next thing, to the next day, oh, it didn't deliver, what we thought it was going to deliver, to the most recent announcement with the Apple headset. And it seems like that wave's coming back. I'll talk very high level about that, and then I'll just talk about us as a company. Needless to say, we can weather a storm. We know how to work with you all to make sure that we're delivering a product that is actually going to help you do your work and be more creative. And ultimately, that is the only way to win in this space, in my opinion. We're not going to make some entertainment solution or something like this. We're really looking at today's problems, but building in a way that sets us up for the future. And so right now, to make a 3D product using the existing 2D tools, it's excruciatingly hard in the communication flow. There are some amazing craftsmen and craftswomen who can do this like with their eyes closed seemingly, but the communication still rests on the people that aren't able to digest those 2D images of 3D content that you're creating. So ultimately, there's going to always be a breakdown in communication. So getting to 3D is probably the best use of this technology in our eyes for empowering creatives, empowering teams that are working on 3D things. So we now have this kind of huge announcement with Apple entering the space. And one of the things I can say is that they didn't show very many spatial experiences. It's a $3,500 device. $3,500 device that I have to watch games with and do my Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. And I know it sounds like pretty like wasteful maybe. I don't know what the right word is, but it doesn't seem like they're painting a massive vision. But I think what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we know the OS landscape really well, and we're going to make sure that we build a foundation for developers like you all to build on top of. And so Apple's not a VR developer. They're not a 3D developer. They never have been. And maybe one day they will, maybe through acquisitions or through, even building their in-house team. But at the moment, they are building a platform very similar to when the iPhone launched without an app store. And it really wasn't until the developers got engaged with the hardware, and were able to build upon it and find really amazing use cases. And now I can't even imagine not having my calendar app on my phone. It would make no sense, right? And I think that's what they're doing. They've actually put a well thought out product out in the sense of something that exists within a known set of technologies and the ability to scale. And we're going to be those scales agents. So there's very few people out here doing it for as long as we've been doing it. There will be a peripheral for the Apple device. I think hand tracking is awesome, but even craftsmen in the real world use tools, so much so that they may make their own tools, right? So there will be peripherals just like the Apple Pencil that will come to it. Gravity Sketch will do our best to make sure that we support it in all its capacity. But ultimately, this is a pro device. And if you look at their naming convention, I'm staying on Apple very long, sorry. But if you look at their naming convention, there are pro devices for professional creatives. If I look at the pro phones, of course, people just buy it because it has a better camera. But to really extract those features that they highlight, those are for professional photographers or people that are going to use those features for aspirational professional photography. And I think that's what they're doing here with this device. There will be maybe a device that is the base model. This is the pro model coming out. And the great thing is, guys, this is as worse as it gets from them. Like, they're not going to go any worse on the quality of visuals, on the weight. Apple is a really long history of going slimmer and making things more accessible and affordable. So if I stay off of that for a little bit and go back to the wider space, it's great to have multiple players in the space from the perspective of having multiple options for you. And that's why I said, if you were looking to get into this space, just get something that you can afford, right? What I think the big players are doing, like Apple, is they're creating a device that can kind of drown out any noise of someone saying this isn't photorealistic enough, or this isn't performant enough, or so forth. They're setting the bar as high as possible, and everyone's going to be compared to them now. So that's going to push the whole industry to make better. How does it stack up to the Vision Pro? And people are just going to have to make better and better technology. For us, not a whole lot changes. You guys are still with us. You guys are going to continue to be with us, hopefully. But over time, a lot is going to change with more people entering the space that can use the tool. And what I mean by not a whole lot of things changes, we're going to continue to make great software. We're going to continue to support anywhere from the Quest 1 to the Vision Pro when it finally releases. And we're just going to continue to do these amazing updates that we're doing. One of the things that we really want to focus on, though, and this is not a change of a new hardware player entering the space. This is just us as a company, and as we grow and our customers growing, we want to ensure that you all as creatives could start including the people that you need to communicate to in your workflow. So there are people that you need to talk to. There are people that have zero knowledge of design that you need to present your work to, and they will have a judgment on your work at various stages of your work. And so we want to create tools that allow you to bring them in to a 3D environment, a 3D experience, make decisions, informed decisions. You can tweak things on the fly, and you can take that solution or that presentation that you just finished and move it forward quite seamlessly in the workflow. And so we're committed right now to go from a designer to everyone that designer needs to communicate with. But the designer is the nucleus. The creative is the nucleus. You all are the people that need to communicate the ideas, and this group of people need to get those ideas as comprehensively as possible. Because what ends up happening if they don't, they start affecting the quality of the design intent, and no one wants that. Very long-winded answer to your question, Tyler, but the future is bright. It's great to have the huge upswell from big players like Apple, but ultimately, the community has been the backbone of the success of this business, and it will continue to do so.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. And long-winded answer, but based off the comments we're getting, I think the community and the viewers absolutely loved everything you had to say. So that's great. And it seems like everyone's been asking about the Apple headset, so it couldn't be more timely. So with that, we will also be announcing something where we're going to be talking about the future of VR here in the next couple days, and just the space in general and design. And so be on the lookout for that. We'll include it in the follow-up here, kind of a sneak preview. We haven't announced yet, so that's exciting. But also just want to thank Ollie, Shay, the community, everybody for being on here and being so engaging today. The questions were great. The comments were great. I mean, it seems like people are very excited about this based off of what people are saying in the chat here. And like I said, if you have any questions, concerns, want to follow up, hello@gravitysketch.com. We are always happy to talk to anybody and everybody who is a part of our community and using our product. Because like Shay just said, without you guys, you're kind of everything for us, right? So we really appreciate it. And just want to thank Ollie and Shay again and everybody for being here. So thank you all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah. And reach out, guys. If you guys want, I talked about observation sessions. Reach out. We'll do some observation sessions with you all, especially if you're the folks that put in 300, 500 hours in the tool. We'd love to see how you use it. We catch so much stuff in the observation session. So reach out if you want to participate in a observation session with the team.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you
if you haven't already, jump into the beta. Jump into the beta if you haven't done it. And I'm down to collab. So let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.